South Africa will hold its fourth investment conference in Johannesburg later this month. In a short while, the Minister of Trade and Industry and Competition, Ebrahim Patel, will be briefing the media on the state of preparations. The conference is part of government's investment drive to attract 1.2 trillion rand over 5 years. That's since the first investment conference in 2018. South Africa has attracted 770 billion rand worth of investments across a wide range of economic sectors. Let's take you live to that.
Basically just introduce the preparation for the next investment conference. And by way of background, I'm sure that members of the media will recall that the President announced in 2018 that we will seek to mobilize investment of 1.2 trillion rand over a 5-year period. That investment was intended to support the growth of the economy and to lay the foundations for the kind of industrial diversification and economic inclusion that we sought. We've had now three of the investment conferences at which the President was able to put forward to the South African public the vision of government on investment, to set out what are some of the economic reforms that we seek to introduce in the economy, and also to provide a platform in which private sector players could set out both their own thoughts about the economy, as well as to make pledges of investment in productive enterprises. And this would be essentially fixed investment in the economy. These were both domestic investors, some of the large South African companies, and foreign investors. We've had some quite significant companies drawn from different parts of the world who attended these investment conferences. The last of these conferences were held in COVID conditions, and members of the media who were present may recall that we had a hybrid event in which a portion of the event was physical and a portion was virtual. And the work done across these three investment conferences yielded a set of pledges of approximately 775 billion rand. And these were pledges made by companies in many different parts of the economy, from productive services to the mining sector, agriculture, manufacturing, digital economy. Quite a significant part was also in infrastructure. The next investment conference will be held on the 24th of March in Johannesburg. And Trudy Mackay will be taking members of the media through what is really the essential part of today's briefing, which is what that investment conference is about. My job would be to try to contextualize that conference by way of the pledges that we've received to date. Of course, we will be making the announcements of new pledges on the 24th, so I want to look back a little bit. And looking back, as I indicated, we've had about 775 billion rands worth of pledges made. These are where largely private sector players have put up their hand and said, over the next number of years, we will be committing this investment. So where did we get to? Well, I'm able to report now that these investment commitments were made in about 150 projects. To be completely precise, 152. And almost a third of those, 45 projects, have been completed. By completed, we mean either the factory has been built, if it's been a new establishment, or if it requires a massive refurbishment and expansion of production lines, then those have been completed. The machinery has been procured and it's been installed. Or if it's a mining shaft, it would mean that the shaft has been sunk. In some cases, production has actually started. We're beginning to see the output of those investment commitments. In other instances, the establishments have been completed and they await production as the next big milestone. A further 57 projects are currently under construction. In other words, they've moved out of the starting blocks of getting the water use licenses and the environmental impact assessments and all the preparatory work, the bankability, the financing arrangements. All of that has been concluded and construction is underway. By the time we did our review in the start of February, out of the universe of 152 investment projects, 15 were running behind schedule. They were either projects that were cancelled or put on hold. By the start of February also, so in this month, something of the order of 315 billion rand of the investment commitments have actually been spent according to the companies that are reporting. And I raise that little caveat because there are some companies that are still due to report on the extent of their spending. So we anticipate that the number ought to be north of the 315 billion rand. And that's quite a significant increase to the amount of spending that we announced at the conference, the last conference in November 2020, just over a year ago. Where do we stand on the whole with our target? The 775 billion, I'm rounding a little bit, the 775 billion rand commitments and pledges that were announced at the last conference as the sum of what had been pledged over the three conferences as a whole amount to roughly 64% of our target. In March this year, we have the second last conference of the 5 that's contemplated, and within 12 months thereafter we will have the wrap-up conference where the President would be able to reflect on the achievements over the 5 years. Now, when we give a number, it's devoid of any sense of granular detail or any sense of what these investments entail. So I thought I would use maybe a few examples just to illustrate the kind of projects that have been completed. So in that sum that I spoke of earlier, the 45 projects that have been completed, they include, among others, examples of the following. The one is Aspen Pharmacare in Gqeberha. They committed 3.4 billion rand at one of the investment conferences to create a world-class pharmaceutical production capability in South Africa. And based on that, at the time when the announcement was made, there was no pandemic in place yet, and they started to build this plant. During the course of the construction and as they were completing the plant, the pandemic hit the world. Aspen was able to take this platform of a world-class manufacturing facility and repurpose it. And so what they did as the first step was to enable the production of vaccines. They put up their hands and eventually reached an agreement with Johnson & Johnson for the J&J vaccine, which I know members of the media took last year sometime. And that J&J vaccine, Aspen became one of the largest manufacturers of the vaccine globally. They've produced, on our calculations, more than 160 million doses of that vaccine here in South Africa. And we reached an agreement last year that the bulk of those vaccines would be made available to the African continent in the first instance. So Africa would have first call on the vaccines that have been produced in South Africa. in that same complex, that same facility that Aspen built, they also created the manufacturing capability to produce an anesthetic that's used in hospitals across the world during operations, including, by the way, in COVID-19, when patients are in the ICU unit and they need to be sedated, they undergoing treatment. They use an anesthetic called propofol, which trades under the brand name Diprivan. Up to now, South Africa has been importing all of the anesthetic, and today we are able to produce that anesthetic in Gqeberha at the facility, the Aspen facility, as a result of the transformation of the plant due to the investment commitment that was made at one of the investment conferences. And the facility now hope, as they ramp up production, and we launched the facility in October last year, late October last year, with members of the media present, and everybody wore these suits, looked like you're from a Star Wars movie. But it was because this facility had to comply with very stringent hygiene standards for the production of the anesthetic. So that's one example in the healthcare sector of what the investment announcements are about. Let me take a second example, which are the vehicles that we all drive. Mercedes-Benz made a commitment of 10 billion rand in fresh investment during the 2018 investment conference. And in the course of building the technical ability to switch to the production of the new C-Class vehicle, the company not only expanded the facility, but also found ways to strengthen their local supply chain. In June last year, I went to Buffalo City and with members of the management and members of the media present, the new C-Class Mercedes-Benz was launched. And interestingly, it's a vehicle that's produced in only 3 cities in the world. I joked at the time that it looks like you needed to have your name starting with a B, because it's Buffalo City, Beijing, and Bremen. These were the 3 locations for the manufacture of the new C-Class vehicle. And this vehicle will be exported from South Africa. In fact, is being exported right now from South Africa to about 100 other countries across the world. But while the company was building this facility, strengthening the facility, they realized that there were opportunities to do more than what they originally planned. So in addition to the 10 billion rand, they made an additional 3 billion rand available that was used to construct a hang-on parts facility at the East London IDZ, that's an industrial development zone, and to increase the paint shop capacity, the hourly throughput in the paint shop quite significantly. We were advised that approximately 600 new direct jobs would be created from the investment, and that is in addition to jobs elsewhere in the value chain. After visiting the Mercedes-Benz plant, I visited a supplier in Buffalo City nearby that was now producing the door panels and the dashboards, panels that are used in the new C-Class vehicle. And that, of course, while it would not be covered directly by the Mercedes-Benz investment, it's an indication of how investment in one area can help to crowd in associated investment in the supply chain. At the same time that Mercedes-Benz was planning their investment, a year later, VM Automotive, which is a component manufacturer, announced a 426 million rand investment in a plant in Buffalo City. This is a 100% black-owned company. So it's a black industrialist. It's trying to get into the supply chain, in this case of Mercedes-Benz. And the company is now producing or is completing the work. The investment has now yielded the necessary capacity. But it's not only for those who drive luxury vehicles. The other big investment in the car sector that was made was by Toyota. Toyota in 2019 committed to a 2.4 billion rand investment in bringing a new generation vehicle to South Africa. And it's a hybrid vehicle. It's a mix between an ICE vehicle, that's the internal combustion engine, and an electric motor. And it goes by the name, I'm sure many of us have started to see it on our roads. It's the Corolla Cross. It comes both in the standard version and in the hybrid version. And what's important about it, and the relevance of me mentioning it, is it's a little bit of a foot in the a toe in the water in shifting our auto production into new energy vehicles. The Cross will be exported to more than 40 countries, principally on the African continent, and it can be boosted by the work we're doing on the African Continental Free Trade Area. If I shift from cars to a completely different area, Procter & Gamble, P&G, made an announcement in the very first investment conference that they were going to make available 300 million rand to expand their facility in Kempton Park to introduce 2 additional product lines. They've now completed that. Those product lines, which happens to be babies' products and women's products, are now in production, and they're also exporting into neighboring countries from there. They've made a further announcement, a second announcement, to further expand their Femicare facility, and that work is now underway. While I'm on P&G, that's a significant consumer goods product. So the other consumer goods product would be food. And there, to take another example, in 2018, a company called Into Foods announced an investment of about 240 million rand. And they located not very far from here, near to OR Tambo, at the Special Economic Zone. And the company used that investment money that the shareholders had made available effectively to build a state-of-the-art fresh food facility. And I've been told that this is the largest facility of its type in the Southern Hemisphere. And I'm also told it's the second largest CO2 refrigeration facility globally. And it's created 600 jobs. So they produce things like soup and pancakes, and they export. So the reason for location near to OR Tambo is so that they service not only the domestic market, but they're also able to export to other countries using the logistics hub. There's a company, a German company, which I guess it's about 2 years ago, announced that they would do a 200 million rand investment in a food manufacturing plant in Selby in Johannesburg. This plant has now been completed, 80 new jobs, and they do, I'm sure you've seen it in supermarkets, they do these frozen pizzas and ready-made meals, supplying major retail chains. Now, it's not only in these areas. Often what we need to do is to look at logistics, because investment needs to be in plants and workplaces that expand production. But the ability to move things to markets is a critical part of our competitiveness challenge, and investing in those areas strengthens our ability there. So we've seen Bidvest, for example, do a major energy logistics operation in Richards Bay. It's an LPG storage facility that is very, very large, and they're able to supply LPG from that facility. On the other hand, you also have a company like Dimension Data that's built a very large data center in Johannesburg. This was announced in 2020, and the data center is ready to be launched. But basically in the next month and a half, we'll find the appropriate moment when it kind of goes live, and there can be a public announcement of it. Some of the projects have been completed, but they've not yet been officially opened. So it's doing the last bits of work to get it ready to launch. And in some cases, companies start production runs. They do their quality control before the official opening. Let me just take one or two examples that will be announced in the next 2 to 3 months, where the official openings will take place. One of it is the SABC Mall. That is a massive project of about just over 7.5 billion rand. And they have expanded the capacity for dissolved pulp that is used in a number of applications, including the paper, I guess, that I'm reading from. And that will be expanded from 110,000 tons per annum to almost 900,000 tons per annum. There's a big state-of-the-art brick-making facility that we're also almost ready to officially launch. And there's one more big vehicle project that we expect to launch in April. Not one of the two OEMs that I've mentioned, but the third one that is said now that they're ready. Now, some of the announcements that we've made about work that we will commence has already produced results. Others are workplaces and production or logistics or warehousing facilities that are almost ready to open, and some are under construction. Without question, the COVID period has slowed down some of the construction, but what we saw is companies used the beginning of the COVID-19 vaccine period, when it was safer for workers to work in larger numbers, to try to speed up construction and bringing their operations into production. So we've seen an uptick in the work that has been done on the pledges that have been announced, and we're really looking forward very greatly to the investment conference. The conference this year will take quite an interesting form, and Trudy Mackay will be taking you through what is intended. We will provide at the conference also more details on the past investments with companies present there, video footage, all sorts of information that will provide further details. Obviously, given the time and the need to use this really just to illustrate it, I've taken a couple of examples rather than an exhaustive list. So DJ, from my side, thank you very much. A big part of the success of what we do comes from our partnership with the private sector. I know the private sector players will have an opportunity to make some remarks on the partnership and the investment prospects, but I'd like to appreciate this opportunity to have said a few words, really just to open up the briefing and to leave the heavy lifting to Trudy, who will be giving you a better sense of what is planned on the 24th of March. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. We can excuse you. You can take leave. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, can I now invite Ms. Trudy Mackay as our next speaker? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Program Director, and good afternoon to all those present. I'm conscious, SABC, I have my computer over your mic. I hope you can still pick up the signal. So as the Minister has given a background on the investment mobilization drive, mine will just be to focus on some of the logistics and the character of this year's conference. So it will be held on the 24th of March, as has been mentioned, and as an in-person event, which would be supported by live streaming for those who are not able to make it. We know it was the conference was not held last year, and we gave ourselves some time to just let the pandemic play out, and also to host it at a time when we would have had greater vaccine coverage. We would have had a sense of where conditions have landed. And I think it was a good decision because, as we can see now, conditions are more benign at the moment, and there's the possibility for greater participation. Like in previous years, the conference will take place at the Sandton Convention Center. We will ensure that we meet all the precautions that are in place at the time. If we held it today, we would be able to meet all the precautions. So we would have up to 1,000 delegates in person is what we're planning for, and they would largely come from the private sector as in previous years. At the venue, we'll obviously follow all the containment, social distancing, and other regulations. There'll also be several ministers and state officials at the conference. Public can follow updates at the SA Investment Conference website, which will, closer to the time, be populated with different developments, and also during the conference. There will be live stream of the conference on the internet, and also a broadcast by the SABC. In terms of the theme of this year's conference, it is Unlocking Investment for Growth and Job Creation. There are various objectives to what we will be discussing this year. We will be giving an update, as the Minister has mentioned, on previous investment commitments that have been made in previous editions of the conference. So we will show real progress of companies that have been able to follow through with their investments, especially in the face of recent events, companies that are showing real resilience in their economic activities. At the same time, we'll also be taking stock of government's actions since the last conference, particularly as regards to policy implementation. We often get this question, that it's one thing to talk about investment, but what is government doing to create an enabling environment? In the State of the Nation, the President talked about some of the structural reforms that are underway, but the conference will be an opportunity to give a bit more detail on the various reforms. And as always, the conference will highlight opportunities for investment and tell the investment case for the South African economy. As in previous years, the President will open the conference. It will be held over one day. The President's opening will be followed by a plenary session, really unpacking the case for investing in South Africa, a progress report on previous year's pledges, 2 sessions to announce new investments, 12 breakaway sessions on the sector themes, and then a closing address by the President. The sector themes will encompass the digital economy, impact investing, improving the business environment, tourism, infrastructure, creative production in the digital era, agriculture, trade, energy, mining, manufacturing, and district-level development. This will be followed by a business dinner, and there will also be an ICT conference held on the sidelines of the main event, ahead of the main event. The content of the conference has really been curated to showcase emerging opportunities in the economy. For instance, the mining panel will consider the role of metals demand arising from the tech and green value chains. The panel on digital opportunities will consider success stories of South African business initiatives, including in fintech and in edtech. The intersection of the creative and digital industries will also come under the spotlight, as seen by the growth of streaming services, and the rise of digital content creators will also be considered in another panel. The opportunities presented by the just transition, including ongoing work on the package that was negotiated on the sidelines of COP26, will also be unpacked. Our collaboration with Impact Investment SA continues. In the past, we used to have a conference the day before. This time, it will have Impact Investing will have a dedicated panel in the main conference. Government will also share thinking around red tape reduction, and reforms under Operation Vulindlela will also be discussed. These initiatives are important catalysts for raising the level of investment. As pandemic restrictions are lifted and economies recover, the panel on tourism will discuss job creation and growth opportunities in this sector, which had come under significant pressure in recent times. In the national budget that was recently presented, there were various details that were given on the fiscal resources and the institutional capacity that has been provided to the infrastructure investment drive. At the conference, we'll also have a session to talk more about the infrastructure fund. Following increasing exports in 2020 and 2021, the conference will also consider how to ensure sustainable growth in agriculture. We've seen record surpluses in various value chains in the agricultural sector, and so we'll be discussing new opportunities, how to sustain this growth, and also how to tap into new markets. Material developments in the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement and growth opportunities will also be explored. In manufacturing, you heard the Minister highlight some of the successes we've had in the past. We will look at success stories and challenges from the master plans that are under development, and also other initiatives to grow manufacturing in South Africa. Finally, the district development model as an enabler of growth and investment, with the potential to secure social compacts at the district level, will also be explored. So these are the panels that we will have in addition to the plenary sessions. And as always, we would have 2 sessions with investment announcements. So that in a nutshell is where we are in terms of the character of the conference, the kinds of themes that we're going to discuss, and also just, I think, showing gratitude that we've been able to sustain the levels of investments that we have in the pipeline that has been highlighted despite the challenges of COVID, social unrest, and the general economic outlook. So I'll leave it at that, and we'll take questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Trudy. At this point, I would invite the representative from the Anglo American, Mr. Pinar.
Honourable Mr. Minister Patel, in your absence, Ms. Trudy Makanya, leaders of government present and colleagues, a very warm welcome to you this afternoon. Thank you for inviting us as Anglo American to deliver a message of support as we gear up to the 4th investment conference that's currently under discussion today and which is taking place in less than a month. Ladies and gentlemen, we are immensely proud of our deep roots in South Africa. As the leading sponsor of this year's conference and one of the largest investors in the country, Anglo American is honoured to partner once again with the South African government to promote our country as an attractive investment destination. Through Anglo American's purpose, which is to reimagine mining to improve people's lives, we are ensuring that the mining industry continues to play its role as a catalyst for economic growth and development in South Africa. Recovery from the economic impacts of COVID-19 means that we must all do our part to rebuild more resilient communities and a better, more robust economy that attracts investment and creates jobs. At the first investment conference in 2018, we as Anglo American committed 85 billion rand, signalling our belief in South Africa's investment case. 2 years later, in 2020, we increased this commitment by 15 billion rand, bringing our investment commitment to 100 billion rand to date. We are pleased to announce that we are well on track to meet our investment commitment, which is being invested in sustaining, expanding, and extending the lives of all of our businesses in South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, amidst a pandemic that has shocked the global and South African economies, we are proud to reiterate our commitment to playing our part in delivering on South Africa's immense growth potential. We believe that the scale and the breadth of our investment in South Africa's mining industry is critical for the country's economic recovery. To recap on our 100 billion rand investment commitment, here are some of the highlights. Firstly, we are converting and expanding our Venetia diamond mine in Limpopo to an underground mine. This is the most significant investment in the South African mining industry in over 20 years. Secondly, we are immensely excited about the opportunities for platinum group metals, or PGMs, in South Africa. In the spirit of partnership, we, together with the Public Investment Corporation, have created a global venture fund to help stimulate existing and new sources of demand for South Africa's platinum group metals. Thirdly, we are developing a new pit at our Kumba iron ore Kolomela mine in the Northern Cape, which will increase the production of high-quality shipping iron ore, which is globally attractive. This project secures the continuation of Kolomela mine in Naspers up till at least 2032 and underscores Anglo American's commitment to supporting the Northern Cape as an important region for the future of mining in South Africa. Fourthly, we are helping to make South Africa's mining industry safer, more innovative, productive, and sustainable by investing in technologies. We are excited about the opportunities that innovation will bring to South Africa's mining industry. We are investing in step-change technologies that offer widespread environmental and productivity benefits, such as the world's largest hydrogen-powered mine haul truck, which we will begin testing in South Africa later this year. In addition, we plan to transition our South African operations to renewable energy sources to support the just energy transition for the country. Over the next few years, we will harness Southern Africa's vast renewable energy potential by developing, at scale, a regional renewable energy ecosystem made up of a network of on-site and off-site solar and wind farms, amongst other opportunities. And last but not least, our operations are drivers of economic activity far beyond their direct impact. Through Zamele, our renowned enterprise development program, we have sustained more than 50,000 additional jobs by supporting over 2,300 SMMEs in South Africa. We believe that mining will play a pivotal role in achieving a better future. However, we know that we cannot accomplish this alone. We all have to join together as a business, faith leaders, academia, communities, civil society, and government to build sustainable and inclusive growth. Through this partnership and spirit of partnership, we can do so much more. We can help communities develop new skills, we can support education, we can build infrastructure, and we can be a catalyst for economic opportunity for millions of our peoples. We hope that the coming conference will go a long way to forging these necessary partnerships. Thank you. Baie dankie, siyabonga.
Thank you, Mr. Pinar. At this point, I'll invite Ms. Ndlovu, representing Naspers.
Honorable Minister in absentia, our lovely host, DG Williams, Ms. Trudy, our co-sponsors from Vodacom as well as Anglo, and to the media in the room, as well as everyone else, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. As a proud South African business that has grown into a global consumer business and one of the largest technology investors in the world, it is so prudent that we ourselves recognize the value of investment and unlocking the potential of South African companies and the role of these companies in creating jobs, stimulating growth, and encouraging investor confidence. As Naspers, we have seen firsthand that the right investment, business support, and partnership can do a lot in growing the tech startups as well as increasing the requisite digital skills required in training and creating opportunities for young graduates. We have seen progress, but have also recognized that there is still more work that needs to be done. It is for these reasons that as Naspers, we again have availed ourselves to sponsor the South African conference. We are also encouraged that our peers, Anglo American and Vodacom and others, have been able to return with us as sponsors and to support our country and continue to represent it as the best investment destination. Now more than ever, it is important for business, government, labor, and civil society to work together and help build South Africa's investment needs and growth. We believe that as the economy reopens, there will be growing recognition of South Africa as a world-class investment destination, which will include solid infrastructure, a young, hardworking, and talented population, and an investment destination that has the potential to be a leader in driving technology innovation in Africa and beyond. The technology innovation can unlock benefits and value for people within our country, especially as the country recovers from the COVID-19 pandemic. It is for this reason that we as Naspers back talented entrepreneurs through our early stage 1.4 billion investment through Naspers Foundry. Naspers Foundry provides South African focused tech company investments, access to markets, international expertise, and business support. To date, Naspers Foundry has invested almost 600 million since its inception and launch in 2019 at this very same investment conference. Naspers Foundry has a promising investment pipeline still coming, and we will be making several announcements in months to come. By supporting early-stage tech businesses run by diverse local entrepreneurs, we continue to stimulate the local economy, create jobs, boost growth, help the transition to a more sustainable and equitable society. For instance, Naspers Foundry invested in an online platform, the Student Hub, which is an ed tech company that helps to overcome the physical infrastructure constraints faced by higher education by partnering with TVET colleges to deliver the course to almost 30,000 online students. Naspers Foundry also invested in a women-owned business, which is Sweep South, an online home and business cleaning service platform, which has facilitated more than 30,000 jobs since its inception, and it has helped many women employees to have a more flexible working environment and decent pay. The company has actually now expanded into Kenya, into Egypt, and into Nigeria since its inception in 2019. We understand that the development of South Africa's early-stage tech ecosystem will have a lasting impact on the broader economy. So our focus is on finding, investing in, and helping to grow the next big South African tech success stories. And there are many, many in the pipeline that we really believe in. We also established a youth social impact program called Naspers Labs. This is meant to address youth unemployment in South Africa by helping young people gain in-demand digital skills and work readiness training. This includes providing training and skills development for roles in software development, cybersecurity, cloud computing, and data science, amongst others. Naspers Labs is on a mission to help 10,000 young people access decent jobs opportunities and to create 20 self-sustained micro businesses by 2026. To date, the Naspers Labs has trained 1,531 young people and created 1,110 jobs in the tech sector. This helps in addressing the skills and educational needs that South Africa's youth requires to become more productive participants as the economy becomes more digitally driven. We also continue to invest in and grow our African consumer internet companies, including Takealot, Mr. D Food, Superbalist, AutoTrader, Property24, PayU, and Media24. During the first investment conference in 2018, we pledged 4.6 billion in investing in new technology startups and in growing our existing South African businesses. We are encouraged by the tech investment opportunities in South Africa and look forward to providing an update at this year's investment conference. We ultimately understand that investing in technology has the power to transform our economy, create jobs, boost growth, and transition to a more sustainable and equitable society. Our commitment as Naspers to this year's investment conference is to continue to help promote South Africa as an attractive investment destination, to re-establish confidence in the country's economy, and to drive sustainable and inclusive growth as a proudly South African company. We are looking forward to a constructive and successful investment conference. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm inviting the last speaker, Ms. Nechitenze, representing Vodacom.
I never worry about touching objects. I only worry about aerosol because my daughter is a dentist. So I will not take off my mask. I've seen Minister Zuma address audiences with a mask on, so I'll follow suit. Thank you. Minister Dlamini Zuma. Good day, Minister, in absentia. Thanks, DG, and congratulations on your permanent appointment. And Trudy, the special advisor to the President on Economic Affairs, all of you in the room, the media, and the co-sponsors. So Vodacom is no longer just a mobile network operator. We are now a technology company that is driving digital transformation. We are leveraging emerging digital technologies such as big data analytics, the Internet of Things, and we are also now very much immersed in the financial services. And all of this is enabled by our network investments. So just to recap, 4 years ago at the investment conference, Vodacom made a pledge of 50 billion rands investment on our fixed and mobile networks over a period of 5 years. This was 4 years ago. I want to confirm that we are living up to that pledge. So in the past 5 years, which goes back a year before the pledge, we have already invested 47 billion rands on our network. Last year, the year that ended March 2021, we invested 10.1 billion rands on our network. And this financial year, until December, which is the third quarter, we have already invested 7.9 billion rands. So we are on track. And to enhance these existing investments and our fiber footprint in the country, in November last year, some of you might remember, we announced an agreement on terms to acquire a strategic stake in CIVH, which is the parent company of Vumatel and Dark Fiber Africa. This will result in Vodacom acquiring a co-controlling 30% stake in a newly formed company called Infraco.
All right, that's a briefing by the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, just saying that preparations are underway for the investment conference scheduled to take place on the 24th of March. And indeed, a number of companies like Vodacom coming out to say that they've managed to reach their pledges and invest in various things related to their industry. So the government sounding very positive about that investment drive. And so we'll be covering that, of course, and covering it live on the 24th of March.